Good afternoon. I'm glad you're all still here with us, and I'll try and be as brief as I can. Some good things about solar in general. The costs have come down significantly. We are getting close to grid parity. I think you'll probably reach grid parity in the next couple of years. Efficiency, well, costs have come down, efficiencies have gone up. And so you're getting more power out of the same material at a lower cost. And so slowly but surely, we're really moving into what can be quite a mainstream power generation possibility. The other thing that's good about solar is peak production is at peak demand. So middle of the day, middle of the summer, when everybody's putting on their air conditioners, that's when we make the most power. So if you're building your solar power project close to load, it's really quite a good solution for meeting demand. It's also very predictable output. There's years and years of meteorological data so that you know as the power curve comes up in the morning and when the sun is going to set later in the day, it's quite predictable. And so that's one of the advantages of solar over other types of more intermittent renewable power projects. It's also very low maintenance. Solar, you build these solar projects and, you basically wash off your panels and you put out new inverters every 10 years, and basically your project is very low maintenance. So that's something to think about. That's something that a utility company thinks about as time goes on as well, because that, any kind of maintenance is something to be considered as far as the total cost of the project. They also have very long life. There are solar panels that were made 40 years ago that are still putting out 60% of their original output. So, you don't have to swap out technology. You basically let it sit there, do minimal maintenance, and it works. So all of these things that I just talked about are basically creating an environment where solar is becoming more financeable. And that really is, I think, the key to making solar become a mainstream technology. And I think, what we're seeing is that as banks and institutional investors become more comfortable with the technology and with the differences of PV crystalline versus concentrating solar power versus the other types of solar, you're finding that it becomes a lot easier to finance. So those are just some of my first remarks. Some information about Suntech. Suntech is a Chinese-based company. We were founded in 2001 in Wuxi, China, which is about an hour and a half west of Shanghai. Our chairman, Dr. Shi, founded the company in 2001. We are the largest manufacturer of solar photovoltaic modules in the world and the third largest in cell production. So we make really, we're truly a pure play solar company. We make standard modules, building integrated photovoltaic products, thin film, and also cells. And so we had a gigawatt of production capacity this past year, and we have a market cap last week of about 2.3 billion. We made 1.9 billion in revenue last year, and the company has been growing about 100% a year ever since it started. So I'm pretty busy. Some more information. We were the #1 module manufacturer in terms of sales in Spain and the #2 in Germany. So we have all the highest ratings in terms of UL listing, IEC listing, TUV listing. So it's truly a global company with global accreditation. There are about 9,000 employees at Suntech. I was employee #3 in the U.S. office. We are now based in, we have offices in Dubai, Australia, Italy, Germany, Spain, Japan, South Korea, Switzerland. And it's quite an international management team, which is really what attracted me to Suntech. So Through our chairman, Dr. Shi, we try to lead by example. We've built a new headquarters building, which you can see here, which we rolled out in the last year. All of our factories are ISO 14001 certified, which is quite unique in China. We take you know, managing our business in a sustainable way very seriously. That front of the building right there is a 1 megawatt BIPV curtain wall. So essentially, instead of just putting glass on the front of the building, it's glass that makes electricity. So I think you're going to see more and more of this, like somebody showed a picture of that building in New York that you can't turn off. I mean, if you're building a building and you're going to use it for 40, 50, 60, 100 years, well, at least by putting that glass that creates electricity, you're basically capping your operating costs of that building. So while it's relatively expensive to build it like that in the first place, over time, it more than pays for itself. And so we kind of did that for ourselves for our new headquarters, you know, incorporating all the good aspects of LEED building, you know, methods, including natural lighting and ventilation, intelligent lighting system, and geothermal for the heat. So this is our chairman, Dr. Shi. He is a physicist. He has 11 patents to his name. He lived in Australia for over 20 years as an Australian citizen and was courted by the government of China to come back and develop a solar industry in Jiangsu province, which is where Wuxi is. And you know, we're trying to bring global best practices to the manufacturing of the solar industry. We offer the longest warranty of any company in the solar industry. There are a few that match it, many that are less. And I think that that's important in terms of creating long-term credibility and financeability of solar projects. So really, one of the most important things to think about is, again, grid parity. You have to consider apples to apples. So when we talk about what are the total costs, you have to look at the levelized cost of electricity. So basically comparing the total life cycle costs of generating energy across different technologies. And when you consider that solar has no fuel price risk and no fuel availability risk, you basically remove a lot of that variability in cost by worrying about our gas price is going to spike, or, you know, I guess that's probably the best example. And really there's a shift in discussion of cost of the upfront investment from cost per watt to cost per kilowatt hour. And so if you figure that over time, like I said, these solar panels last a long time with minimal maintenance, with no emissions, you know, in an environment where there may be a carbon tax at some point, well, you know, that's a much cheaper solution for long-term power generation than you know, carbon emitting other alternatives. So some of the other levelized cost of energy advantages. So it's relatively inexpensive to, like I said, for operations and maintenance. There's different types of solar. I won't get into that now, but there's kind of standard photovoltaic crystalline solar. There's thin film solar of various types, and you know, PV crystalline solar is very boring. It's been around for a long time. It works, and you know, thin film. There are different types of thin film. We make amorphous silicon thin film solar modules now ourselves, but thin film uses a lot more space. So the form factor of the modules is much bigger, and it puts out much less output. So like a typical thin film module might put out 6% efficiency, whereas a standard kind of PV crystalline is 15, 16%. Some of the high efficiency PV crystalline are like maybe 20, 21%. So those are all things that you have to consider when you consider the install cost, the total cost of the energy.